Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're working on day 7 of PEACHTOBER. The prompt is the word crater. Now, I know I'm so far behind on this one, but I am still pushing through. I'll still try and finish everything, although I'm pretty sure it's gonna bleed into November or the first week or so of November. So bear with me. Anyway, for this prompt, I initially wanted to do a crater, like a vase crater, which was used back in Greek times to mix water and wine. But at the last minute, I decided to change it and just went for a more simpler sci-fi route. It features an astronaut with a shocked expression looking at a planet's crater or an asteroid. I really wanted it to have that pulpy feel and look to it. You know, the kind where you'll often see it in old magazines or old sci-fi stories or novels. I'm using Himi Gouache for this illustration. I've had it for years and it's in a really sorry state right now. I'll put a photo of it right here. And I've been wanting to chuck it for a long time, but I feel bad, because I didn't want to waste it. So I wanted to get one last use out of it before I go ahead and throw everything out. Even though they're student grade quality paints, the Himi Gouache is actually pretty good. They go on quite smoothly and they're very vibrant and pigmented when you apply it. Another thing I love about it is it's affordable. It's pretty cheap for a whole set. And if you're somebody who doesn't want to use your artist quality paints on sketchbook spreads or pretty much just doing random studies, then having good quality student grade paints like this one will be perfect. As for the downsides, I don't like the fact that it does get moldy after a while, and you have to keep spraying it with like this anti-mildew spray, or at least even water, so to make sure that it remains usable. I didn't use mine for a long time and basically forgot about it. So when I finally opened it up to use it, it was all hard and some of it was moldy. So I had to chuck those out and then try to salvage the rest of the paints. They do sell anti-mildew spray with their gouache. Like you can buy it separately, so you can spray that on your palette after you've opened it, or if you're going to store it for a long time, and then just come back to it every now and then and put a spritz on it to keep the paint still usable. Now, let's talk about the painting and application process. Whenever I create paintings, I follow the same general process. First, I always do a block-in. Basically, I do a first layer of all the base color or the block-in colors for the piece. I focus on 3 main values: the darks, the lights, and in some instances, the midtones. You might encounter slight differences in the application depending on the type of medium you're using. One great thing about working with gouache is that you can layer them to a certain extent. You just need to have a very light touch when you're applying a second or a third coat so as not to disrupt the previous layers and turn everything muddy. Here you'll see me adding the shadow areas to the face. I also added a block-in of the eyes and the eyebrows just to serve as a general guideline for me. At this point, I'm not worried about the edges or the texture or anything like that. I just want to get the entire area covered up with paint before I go ahead and add any highlights or midtones or any other values that would help complete the face. You can see a very simplified version of how I paint with gouache when you look at how I did the lips. So first I applied a base coat of yellow and orange, so it serves as the main highlight tone, and then I added a mid-tone, which is the orange, just being careful to leave out certain gaps to create texture as well as to leave as highlights for the lips. And then finally I would add the darkest tone on the corners of the mouth and the mouth itself. Later on I would add highlights to complete everything. This process works great if you're doing a more illustrative type of drawing instead of a realistic one. This was probably the trickiest part of the entire illustration for me. I wasn't really sure how to paint the reflection on her helmet. I was really worried that I was going to mess it up because it would cover a chunk of her or her forehead. And I knew that if I couldn't pull it off properly, then I would have to repaint everything. So I was really worried about that. Once I'm done with the block in and then the midtones or the second layer, the final layer that I put in is the highlights and the details. By this time, I switch to a smaller brush and then I go from one area of the painting to another to complete it. So in this case, for instance, I'm painting the helmet and all the other little highlights and reflections that I see. During this time, I also try to reinforce the darks and the highlights, judging their values or anything like that to make sure that they read properly. And we're finally at the finish line. Thank you so much for joining me this week. I really enjoyed working on this and it was a lot of fun. I think I'm going to have to say goodbye to my Mia Himi Gouache, but it has been a great medium to use. The rest of the Peachtober prompts will be in the form of paintings and they'll be all clumped together. So I hope you'll join me until I finish this challenge, and I'll see you then. Bye.